So, boys and girls, Inkling has created his very own original comic book, we think. So, let's see how Dad's going to react to somebody else writing his comics. Here's some more Inkling. After school, Dad stared at the double-page spread on Ethan's desk, a deep furrow across his forehead. Nervously, Ethan watched and waited. "Is this yours?" Dad finally asked him. "No." He puffed out air. "Well, someone's doing a heck of a good imitation of me. Who did it?" "Well, you, really." "No, I'd remember doing this. It's not mine. Where did you get this, Ethan?" "You have to promise to listen and let me finish." His father sat down in the chair, and Ethan told him everything. And with every sentence, he knew it sounded more and more like something from a comic book. But what was he supposed to do? It was the truth. And when he finished, his father said nothing, gently swiveling to and fro in the chair, staring at the artwork. When he finally looked at his son, there was real concern in his eyes. "Ethan, I know things haven't been easy." "Dad, I'm not crazy." "I never said you were, but I'm wondering if there might be another explanation for why don't you just meet him?" "Inkling?" Dad looked more concerned than ever and was a bit lost for words. "Okay, sure." He was talking more slowly and softly than usual, like a therapist from a movie. "Do you want to describe him to me?" "He's not imaginary, Dad. You're actually going to see him." "Okay." "He's like a big splotch of ink." "Got it." Ethan sighed and turned to his bed. "Inkling, come meet my dad." Underneath the bed, Inkling had been listening. He wanted to make a good impression on Mr. Reliance. He wanted to be likable. Puppies are likable, and the only thing better than a puppy was a really, really huge puppy. He came bounding out, tongue rolling, the size of a rabid timber wolf. "Holy crap!" Ethan's dad shouted, pushing back in the chair so hard that it fell over with him in it. "Ethan, get out of here! It's a freaking monster!" He grabbed his son's hockey stick and started whacking Inkling. "Dad, stop!" The giant puppy pranced around playfully, easily avoiding the hockey stick. "Inkling!" Ethan shouted. "Just be small, okay?" Instantly, Inkling shrank and slid onto Ethan's outstretched hand. Dad sat panting on the floor. "What the heck is that?" "It's Inkling, just like I've been telling you." Slowly, Mr. Reliance stood and watched Ethan carry Inkling to the desk. He glided off onto a piece of paper and wrote, "Hello, Mr. Reliance. I'm sorry I frightened you." Ethan watched his father's Adam apple bop up and down. Then Dad paced the room, his hands clasped over the top of his head, taking big noisy breaths in and out and muttering to himself. He kept taking quick little glances over at Inkling and then looked away and shaking his head some more. "Dad," Ethan said. "Dad." "Yeah," his father said. "It's real." "Yeah, okay." He stopped pacing and came closer. "So he came from my sketchbook?" "Yes." "And he's been helping you draw?" Ethan already told him this, but it was like Dad needed a few questions that he already knew the answers to. Ethan nodded. Dad warily approached the desk and looked down at Inkling, who was gently expanding and contracting like a jellyfish. "What do I do?" Dad asked Ethan. "Maybe say hello." "Hello, Inkling," he said weakly, and then added, "Sorry about the hockey stick. That dog was just very, realistic." "He was perhaps a bit large." Dad nodded. He scratched his head. "Can I see you draw?" "Certainly. What would you like me to draw?" "Anything good." Inkling hesitated a moment and then began a picture of a suited man sitting at the dinner at night. Light poured through the window onto the city street, and Ethan watched his father's intent face. "Stop, please," Dad said before the drawing was complete. "What's wrong?" Ethan said. His father righted the chair and sat down. "Nothing. It's amazing. It's just so strange. It's like watching myself draw, that I'm not doing it. He's a part of you, jumping out of your sketchbook." "Yeah," Dad murmured. His eyes went back to the glorious double-page spread Inkling had created during the night. "And this? Do you like it?" Ethan asked anxiously. Dad looked at him solemnly. "You asked him to do this for me?" "Well, I just thought it might help." "Get me unblocked?" "Maybe just get your imagination going, yeah." His dad came over and gave him a hug. "Thank you. You don't have to worry about me, you know. Everything's okay." Ethan nodded, but he wasn't so sure. He didn't think it was okay for not working for so long and staying in bed all day, but it felt good to be hugged. It felt good to see Dad's grin and to be told things were all right. "What do you think of it, though?" Ethan asked again, nodding at the spread. "I think," Dad said, "it's fantastic." Dad took them out for their favorite Italian restaurant. Paschetti, shouted Sarah as they were seated, with Parmesan. They got one of the cozy booths. The restaurant was always bustling, and there were old Italian street signs and posters on the wall and shelves with colorful jars of tomatoes and peppers and olives. Lights danced off the zinc bar behind that, which was a huge ancient coffee machine that sounded like a steam engine. And while they waited for their meal, Sarah was full of stories about Lucy, her puppy, and not even Dad seemed to mind tonight. Ethan ordered limonata, and Sarah had milk with a straw, and Dad had a pale red wine, and they talked about Inkling in between listening to Sarah. He stays under your bed the whole time? Dad asked. Mostly. I keep newspapers for him to eat. He likes comics a lot, but they make him hyper. I've been trying to give him more books. It was such a relief for Ethan to finally tell his father. A secret was a heavy thing to carry around for so long, and day by day it only got heavier. He realized that this was the most he and Dad had talked about anything in a long time. He reads a lot at night. I think he wanders around too, Ethan added, but he couldn't bring himself to mention how Inkling had drawn Dad's dreams. It was too personal. Oh, and he's terrified of Rickman for some reason. Rickman, Dad said, laughing. Ickman's a naughty cat, Sarah interjected. A terrible naughty cat, Dad agreed, which pleased Sarah to no end. He took another sip of his wine and shook his head thoughtfully. That spread Inkling did. It was like something I might have dreamt. The colors and the energy across the page. There's a setting and a character and something about to happen. So you think you'll be able to use it? Ethan asked hopefully. His father rocked his head to side. Well, it's certainly not the direction I've been leaning towards. Ethan tried to hide his disappointment, but his father must have seen because he said, It's amazing, don't get me wrong. I feel like the door to a new world has just been kicked open. Yeah, said Ethan. I mean, just looking at it, don't you have a million ideas of what could happen next? It's very intriguing, but I need to look at it some more. Shouldn't we keep him somewhere safer? Inkling? Ethan blinked. Like where? Someplace Rickman can't get him. Well, Rickman can't really hurt him. And where can he escape? Ethan was startled by the choice of word escape meant wanting to get away from something terrible. I don't think he wants to go anywhere, Ethan said, but he suddenly remembered how Inkling had wandered off into the art room. That was just curiosity, though. He'd smelled ink. He was hoping to find another creature like himself. Would he try again? Ethan realized how much he wanted Inkling to stay, and not just because he needed his help, because Inkling was like a friend now. Surely he'd wanted to escape. He would have done it by now. But all he had to do was slip under the door, and he could go anywhere. To Inkling, then, Dad said, raising his glass. Ethan clinked with him, and Sarah insisted on clinking her milk glass, too, and Ethan thought that things were definitely looking up. Next morning, as he woke up, Ethan smelled coffee and bacon, and he lay in bed for a few more minutes, smiling, just listening to the comforting kitchen sounds, cutlery clinking, fridge door closing, toaster popping, and the muted sounds of Dad and Sarah talking. When he went to the kitchen, Dad was already dressed, and he'd gotten Sarah dressed and was making her scrambled eggs. He had lots of coffee in him now and was alert, Dad. Hey, sleepyhead, Dad greeted him. You up early? Time to get serious about work, alert Dad said. He certainly looked and sounded energetic, and Ethan grinned. He could remember the time when Dad's work was going well. Maybe he'd meet his 4-month deadline after all. You got an idea? Ethan said hopefully. Let's just say I feel something ready to bang on the door. When Ethan got home from school, he found Dad in his studio asleep in a little sofa. Hey, Ethan said worriedly. How's it going? Oh, good. I was just taking a little nap. Ethan wondered if there was an exclamation mark lie in there somewhere. Dad must have seen the uncertainty in his face because he said, Do you want to see? He got up, stretched, and walked to the drafting table. Oh, wow, said Ethan. It was a glorious full-paged, inked, colored, and lettered, and it was definitely a continuation of Inkling's double-page spread. Ethan recognized the main character and the landscape. Dad, that's amazing. It turned out pretty well, huh? I can't believe you did this all in one day. He looked around at the drafting table. Usually after Dad finished a page, there'd be pencil cartoons and roughs and color tests scattered all over the place, and the table was surprisingly tidy, and Dad was not a tidy person. I had a little help, Dad admitted. Ethan looked at him. What do you mean? I spent a long time looking at that opening spread, and it was incredible. You could stare at it for hours. Beautiful. But really, it was just a mood piece. There's a girl looking over the jungle, and there's a village, and maybe way off a tomb. It feels like an adventure, like something about to begin. But what? And is it on Earth and in another world? Those creatures up in the sky, are they normal birds? So many questions. I just thought Inkling might have some of the answers. So you asked him for what happened next, Ethan said. Dad shrugged. Why not? He came up with the opening image, so maybe he already imagined a bit of the rest. I thought you were just, going to do your own thing with it, Ethan said. Sure, but what was the point of me making it up if Inkling already knew? And he did. He offered the sketch out of the next little bit for me. Ethan's eyes widened. You brought him in here? I told you about the sketchbook. Don't worry, I kept it closed and moved it out of the way. Ethan felt the same stab he had when Soren asked to borrow Inkling, so he just roughed in a few panels for you? At this, Dad looked sheepish. Well, a bit more than that. Coloring? Yeah, some coloring, yes. Dialogue? He came up with some very good lines. Ethan was surprised how indignant he felt. He really didn't like the idea of Inkling working with his dad. A day ago, all he hoped for was that his father was getting back to work. But now he couldn't stop himself from saying, so he's basically doing everything. He just giving me a good push, Dad replied. It seemed to Ethan like this was already more than a push, but he didn't say anything. I doubt I need him any more after today, Dad added. And anyway, he's part of my imagination, right? These are my ideas. I guess, Ethan supposed, as he had a point, but it didn't feel quite true. It was hard to think of Inkling as being part of Dad when he seemed so much his own, person. Still, Dad was cheerful now, and it was such a relief to see new pieces of work on the drafting table. Ethan went to his room and found Inkling. All day he'd been looking forward to his drawing lesson, to seeing his own graphic novel growing panel by panel. It was his favorite time of day, just the two of them working quietly together. Inkling was a patient teacher, and Ethan knew Dad wouldn't be nearly as patient or encouraging. For the first time in a long time, things felt good again. All right, my friends, what do you think about Dad's new relationship with Inkling? He seems to be letting Inkling, just run the show and do all the new stuff. What do you think about that? Do you think Dad is using Inkling correctly, or do you think he's kind of taking advantage of Inkling? Let me know what you think. Bye.